Dr. Thomas Seyfried speaks a lot on metabolic cancer and claims he has tested all the major types of cancer and has determined that they all feed on a combination of glucose and glutamine. He advocates clinical ketosis and push pulse therapy for short duration glutamine inhibitor to kill off cancer cells. He also says low dose chemo can be used once in clinical ketosis. I know you say that some cancers are not based on this fermentation process. What are your thoughts on this approach? Sounds like combination with your protocols or with Rife doesn't seem like considered by standards of care, even though there seems to be strong, significant evidence of cancer as a metabolic disease. What are your thoughts? So he's the guy who wrote Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. Now, understand to define that, just because cancer, so metabolic disease, meaning that really every disease is a metabolic disease, except diseases that are specifically genetic cause, which, like if you're born with Down syndrome or something, that's not a metabolic disorder. You can't change a person's diet and change their Down syndrome. So, of course, every acquired disease is metabolic in origin. Now, he just kind of coined that phrase, cancer is a metabolic disease. Well, nobody argued that it wasn't. There are some cancers that are genetic, but it's a very small percentage of the cancers that are genetic. So, but when a person says, well, cancer is a metabolic disease, so you need to use ketosis, get in a ketogenic diet to treat it. You're not equating one on one there. Just because he wrote that book, he advocates for a ketogenic diet, doesn't mean that a ketogenic diet is going to solve every metabolic disorder. So a metabolic disorder means a disorder of cellular function. So, of course, every disease is a disorder of cellular function. Now, I would agree with him that, most cancers feed on glucose and glutamine and can switch back and forth. So I would agree that that is the case. The truth is, all your cells feed on glucose through glycolysis. They also can feed on a fatty acid cycle because cells' purpose is to make energy. So you need to make energy in order for cellular functions to take place. So a cell's purpose is to make ATP. So that's the energy that a cell makes. Most efficient ways to make ATP is through glucose metabolism, breaking it down through glycolysis, and then through the Krebs cycle where it really kicks out ATP. Also, you could break down amino acids, also fatty acids. So cancer can feed any different way. The truth is, cancer is going to do everything it can to feed any different way. So it will change. So is it wrong to go on a ketogenic diet? No, it can be very beneficial to go on a ketogenic diet. Does a person need to get in ketosis in order to shut down the glucose pathway? No, that's not true either. But the closer you could get to ketosis, the lower your glucose level you could get, the lower levels of circulating glucose that you could have, the benefit is going to be there. The truth is, nobody's ever going to have no glucose. You need glucose. Your brain is always going to need to feed off of glucose. So if you didn't have any glucose, you would die. But you don't want to supply excess glucose to cancer cell. You don't want to supply excess fuel to a cancer cell, whether it's glucose or glutamine or amino acids or fatty acids or whatever that cancer has acquired a taste for to feed off of. So, diet is important for cancer. So I would agree when you say that, standards of care doesn't seem to address this issue. I would totally agree with that. Standards of care doesn't really address any metabolic disease. Standards of care really doesn't address any chronic disorders well. They don't deal with diet. You see the refrigerator in a chemo center loaded with putting in, They recommend, high sugar drinks because they have a high caloric count. And I mean, it's just foolishness what standards of care does. Certainly, switching between, a ketogenic type diet and switching, trying to do things to lower glutamine levels and methionine levels can be very beneficial. Um, and everybody's got to kind of find what's going to be best for their cancer if they don't have a way to test for that.